Whether you're conquering professional exams or personal milestones, we welcome you to Beyond Clean's Confidence Certification, the 52-week test prep podcast series. With expert insights, actionable tips, and engaging discussions, we'll break down the toughest concepts in sterile processing and build your confidence every step of the way. Join host Sarah B. Cruz as she embarks on a mission to help you not just prep for tests, but craft your success story. And now your host, Sarah B. Cruz.
Hello and welcome. You're listening to Confidence Certification, a 52-week test prep podcast series to equip you to take your sterile processing career to the next level. I'm your host, Sarah B. Cruz, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about stereotyping. Yes, hello everybody. It's me, Sarah B. Cruz. I want to thank you all again for joining me today, and I just want to take a second to have everybody breathe in, breathe out. I'm going to ask you all to get into this really nice mindset. What are you seeing, right? Are you seeing your favorite coffee shop? Are you seeing the time clock because you're just about to punch out from your shift? I know I like to visualize the time clock when I'm getting ready to leave. But putting all of that aside, today I want to talk specifically about how we stereotype mindsets. This entire podcast series, and even some of our guests had talked about what it means to have This entire podcast and a number of our guests have been talking about having the quote, right mindset, not really discussing what a mindset actually means. Am I right? So let's focus in on how we actually create a mindset, right? So I'm sure we all have heard glass half full, glass half empty. I am personally more of the opportunist. I drink the glass of water while everybody's fighting about whether it's full or not. No, but I digress. Let's focus in on some of the more popular mindset terms we've heard day to day. So I'm sure we've all heard the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset, right? So this is an idea that the growth mindset believes that abilities can be developed through hard work and learning. Whereas a fixed mindset kind of views abilities as static traits. You know, they're unchangeable from birth. You are the way you are since the way you've been born. You know, fixed mindsets kind of lend to this idea that they don't undergo any substantial internal changes as a result of what's happening around you, right? You're not necessarily impacted by the things that would change how you think. Another popular pairing is a positive mindset versus a negative mindset. Pretty self-explanatory, right? But the positive mindset focuses on the good things in life. It uses gratitudes and it helps us expect the best from whatever situation we're in. Whereas a negative mindset dwells on the bad and tends to be pessimistic. Now, when we talk about these two mindsets, they kind of go at each other. Right? It's like, you're just, negative Nancy and, stop being such a, positive Pam, so, it's very to and fro with these two. That's for sure. Another popular pairing is the entrepreneurial mindset versus the worker bee mindset. The entrepreneurial mindset embraces innovation. They're risk takers and opportunity seekers. So maybe that's a little bit of that optimism we were talking about earlier. Whereas the worker bee mindset prefers stability, likes routine, and they really want to stay on that established path. And finally, a very popular pairing is the abundance mindset versus the scarcity mindset. The abundance mindset believes that there's enough for everybody. We should share knowledge with everybody, and there's opportunity in everything that we see. Whereas a scarcity mindset suggests that there's limitations. It focuses on the lack thereof, right? So it fears the possibility of scarcity, right? Not having the resources available to achieve what we want. And when we come back from a short break and a word from our sponsor, we're going to discuss why these pairings actually work together to get us to where we need to be. It's time for our mid-episode confidence boost, where we focus on a key sterile processing test concept. Now, there's no guarantee these concepts will be on the test that you take, but they are key concepts to the workplace and are discussed in the literature. Today, we'll cover Geobacillus stereothermophilus. Don't worry, you won't need to spell it on your certification test, but it is the most frequently used spore for the biological monitoring of a variety of sterilization. Located in a process challenge device, also known as a PCD, the spore is exposed to the harshest elements of sterilization, all with the intention of destroying it. Why this spore? Because it is the most difficult to destroy. Thus, if the sterilization process can eliminate all presence of it, surely any other microorganism wouldn't stand a chance. After sterilization, the PCD is opened and Geobacillus stereothermophilus vial is incubated for a duration of time, depending on the type of incubator used, with the intention of challenging the spore to cultivate when given its ideal conditions for growth. The vial is then inspected for its results, with the ideal results being negative. That's going to wrap this week's mid-session confidence boost. Good luck. Hey, everybody, and welcome back. As always, a big thank you to our sponsors. And today we are continuing the conversation on mindset stereotypes. So I know we've all heard about, having a positive mindset, and maybe you've even heard of some of the terms that I described previously before we went on break. I want to take some time to dive into how these terms, while they look like opposites, they couldn't be more different from one another, actually work together to help develop the current mindset that we can set into. I think a lot of the times people think you're either this or you're that. You could have a worker bee mindset and have an abundance mindset. You're not limited to just having one view on a current situation, a scope on life, or, the ideas behind our certification test. We can mix all of the pairings above, and you can even mix two members of the same team to create an amazing mindset. You see that a lot in the field, especially when you come into sterile processing. A lot of the time, pessimistic people are described as such primarily because sometimes the positive people may be, in their opinion, overly positive. Not everything is all, sunflower and daffodils. That's what my dad says to me. So a lot of the times, people who are pessimists don't even view themselves like that because they think they're realistic, right? And that's kind of a funny term too, because the, positive Pams think they're also realistic. So that's the tricky part with mindsets. You're determining what is and isn't right for you. And the only time a mindset doesn't make sense is when we're projecting our own onto others. Now, what I'm asking for in this episode is that you cultivate your own. So let's take a look at some of the teams we discussed before our break. Now, you could have a fixed mindset, right? You believe that you have been unchangeable since birth. You're not necessarily impacted by the things that are going on around you. Whereas some people view that as negative. Sometimes it can be very positive, right? You could have the whole world's on fire around you, but you're very level-headed because you have this fixed mindset. You're not being impacted by dramatic or drastic changes around you because you're sort of staying the course in the things that you have always done, right? That's how we've always done it. And it sort of falls into that worker bee mindset. You have stability, you have routine, and you prefer following the established path that you've probably put a lot of energy into making. I don't necessarily see anything wrong with that. The only time a mindset is a problem is, again, when we're projecting it onto other people or when it limits us from achieving what we've set out to achieve. Another odd pairing. Let's take a look. So we've talked about a positive mindset. They focus on the good things in life. They like to use gratitude, and you expect the best from life and every situation. Now, you could absolutely Still mix that with a scarcity mindset. Again, a scarcity mindset focuses on limitation and it competes for resources. There's not enough for everybody. You can be very positive about your outlook and working towards your goals and still operate under the idea that you have to focus on yourself first, that you need to be scarce with the amount of energy that you're giving out to others because you have to put it into yourself. Now, if you're in a situation where you really shouldn't be putting all the energy into yourself and those around you are lacking, again, projecting your mindset onto other people. But if that's not part of this situation, I think there's a lot of positive outcomes that come from having that focusing on the good life and thinking of myself first in the situation, despite what a lot of people think. Some people call that self-centered, but that's a whole other episode, right? So now let's look at a pairing of two when put together can be really powerful. Now, take a look at the entrepreneurial mindset versus the worker bee mindset. You would think that the two of these couldn't be on more opposite sides of the spectrum, right? But could you imagine the power of the entrepreneurial mindset? You embrace innovation. You're a risk taker. You're an opportunity seeker, mixed with the ability to put in the work necessary. That would almost make you an untouchable entrepreneurial worker bee, right? Could you imagine if you're embracing innovation, you're taking all of these risks, and because you've done this type of thing before, you have a routine and a path to follow on how to make that cold call, how to, jump off the edge without looking, dare I say. Yeah. There's so much power in combining the two things that we think are opposite that really push us to that finish line. And a lot of the times it's that uncomfortable feeling, that pressure. That's what we experience right before success. They always say success is just 2 steps outside of our comfort zone, right? So maybe by recognizing the mindset that we have and mixing it with some of the ones we've mentioned today, or even its direct opposite if you're feeling a little bit more cunning than others, putting that together to see what type of outcomes we can have with supplementing our mindsets and not necessarily changing our mindset. Remember, don't shun yourself because you could possibly live in one of the perceived negative mindsets. I know a lot of people don't like a negative Nancy, but let's face it, you need that person in the group to tell you, hey, it might rain on that awesome beach day. So maybe you pack an umbrella, right? Bring a pair of pants, and then lo and behold, it rains. Right? Or you need to have that person in your group that's like, hey, it's COVID. I have a feeling integrators are going to get back ordered. And you're like, no, there's integrators for everybody, throwing type 5 integrators all around. You get an integrator. You get an integrator. And lo and behold, integrator shortage, right? If we had heeded to the advice of someone with a different mindset, even though we perceived that as, negative, we would have been better prepared. So instead of compartmentalizing into good and bad, why not put them together to figure out what works? So as we wrap today's episode, I want to send you home with some homework. I really want you to sit and figure out which of these mindsets sound like you. Now, they could be the mindset you have in your test taking, in your certification prep. That's totally fine. But what I'm looking more for is you as an entity, as a person. Which mindset do you personally relate to? It's important to understand which one we embody and, dare I say, embrace in our day-to-day life to see what type of mindset we're bringing into our studying and then into our testing centers. And then if you're feeling like you want a little bit of extra credit, I challenge you to combine 1 or 2 more of the mindsets we went over today to see if it can really burst that limiting bubble and get you to the finish line. That's going to wrap today's episode, everybody. As always, thank you so much for joining me, and I can't wait to see you next week. Bye. And that's going to do it for this week's episode. For more sterile processing education and resources, make sure to visit beyondclean.net or follow Beyond Clean on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget to check out over 1,000 SPD related videos at youtube.com/beyondclean. If you have any questions or comments for the show, you can reach out to info@beyondclean.net. Finally, make sure to download the Beyond Clean mobile app on the Apple and Android app stores so that you don't miss a future episode of any of the other awesome Beyond Clean podcasts. My name is Sterile Cruz, and you've been listening to Confidence Certification. Until next time, keep fighting dirty and pass that test with confidence.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast series are of Sarah B. Cruz only and do not represent the companies she works for or collaborates with.